Welcome to the Law School Toolbox podcast. Today, we're talking with Casey Berman, creator of Leave Law Behind, about how lawyers can transition out of law and into a non-law career. Your Law School Toolbox host today is Alison Monahan, and typically I'm with Lee Burgess, my co-host. We're here to demystify the law school and early legal career experience so that you'll be the best law student and lawyer you can be. We're the co-creators of the Law School Toolbox, the Bar Exam Toolbox, and the career-related website Career Dicta. I also run the Girls Guide to Law School. If you enjoy the show, please leave a review or rating on your favorite listening app. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can always reach us via the contact form on lawschooltoolbox.com, and we would love to hear from you. With that, let's get started. Welcome back. Today, we're talking with Casey Berman, creator of Leave Law Behind, about how lawyers can transition into non-legal careers. So welcome, Casey.
Thank you, Alison. So great to talk to you again, and thank you for having me.
Oh, totally my pleasure. So first off, can you just give us a bit of your background so that our listeners will understand a little bit better where you're coming from? What was your work background, and how did you get into Leave Law Behind? What motivated you to start the site?
Yeah, so I graduated law school in '99 at University of California, Hastings College of Law here in San Francisco.
Nice.
And I went to technology first here in San Francisco back then. I'm shocked.
I'm shocked to hear that.
I didn't go let's just say I wasn't the best OCI interviewee. And so went actually clerked for the public defender's office, kind of bounced around a little, was looking for a job, but then went into technology, doing some business development, some legal stuff for a small startup. And then I actually went in-house for another company called Workshare way back when in 2000. And I was there for about 5 years doing software licensing. So really interesting, great company. It was many lawyers may know of it because we had the Delta View product, that redlining tool back then. So I did primarily software licensing and all the other stuff that you work on with a startup. Really enjoyed it. Great experience. But the one thing I realized was, even though I had many would say the plum job that most attorneys wanted, which was an in-house counsel job at a tech company, at a startup in an office that was like out of the dot-com movies, the role itself just wasn't a fit for me. Very reactive. I just negotiated deals all the time. I was kind of had to be the adult in the room. I couldn't really create things. If I negotiated something and the deal didn't close, you better believe the salesperson was looking at me funny because their commission was contingent on it. So while it sounded great, in-house counsel, it just wasn't a fit for me. Mm-hmm. And so I looked elsewhere within the company, but there weren't really that alternatives back then. And so in 2004, I left. Everyone thought I was crazy. And I did a number of things, did some consulting, did operations work, started my own company, and have done other things. But over the years, from 2004 to really 2009, and this is where Leave Law Behind really started kind of coming into my mind, was the University of California Hastings Career Services office would send me people maybe a few times a year saying, hey, you're a student, you don't really want to practice, we don't really know what to do with you, but go talk to Casey, he's downtown. I was sort of that guy.
Right. They're like, maybe have a coffee with him. Maybe he'll figure out some way to help you. We have no idea what to do. We don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and they're great people at the career service office. They didn't really know what to do with those 3 or 4 people a year who said, I don't really want to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. So in 2009, they had an alternative career session at Hastings during the summer, middle of the recession. They asked me to speak. I just sort of talked about what I had done. It had been, 5-6 years since I've been out. I thought there'd be 5 people there. There were 55 people there. I talked an hour afterwards, and it really hit me. There's a pain. People want to leave the law. They want to find alternative careers. They don't know how to, though. So I started writing at the end of 2009. I started the blog end of 2009, 2010, which is kind of my private diary that I started making public, and it's just since grown from there.
That's awesome. And I'm kind of curious, what type of reactions now and at that time have you gotten from kind of the establishment of the legal profession, like the law schools, bar associations, things like that? Has that changed at all?
It has. Yes and no. Back then, when I left in 2004, everyone thought I was nuts. my family to. It was until recently my parents even said, could you ever do any law stuff maybe on the side? I said, yeah, right. Casey Berman of Leave Law Behind would do legal work on the side.
Right. But just out of curiosity, are you still licensed? Are you inactive? How did you handle that?
So I'm still licensed. I pay the $400 plus a year. I have a Jewish mother, and she likes to see it. And it also helps, like back a long time ago when I was getting a mortgage, seeing that I was a licensed attorney. Actually, the bank really liked seeing it. So I've kept doing it. And, it's also ironic, right? Have left the law and I help people do it. And here I sort of keep that status. And that's something that we talk about through the coaching that I do, is really this identity as an attorney that we all have, and even I have a little. But I have kept my licensing. I consider it a kind of a donation to the bar.
I just went inactive in California. I was licensed in 2 places. So I was licensed in Massachusetts, where I never actually really practiced. So they let you retire, but you can just go and sort of pay back all the money if you ever decide that you want to unretire. Right. California, of course, does not offer that option because they would like to keep your money every year. So I'm inactive, but I think of it as, sort of my security blanket that, well, if I ever need to be a lawyer again, at least I don't need to go sit for the bar. Like, I would not go through that hell again. So, I'll pay them a couple $100 a year to know that if I ever need to, I can just pay them a lot more money and start being a lawyer again.
Well, and I've thought about it. Trust me, I've thought about going inactive. And one reason why I've kept it is because when people come to Leave Law Behind, because people will call me and say, I just want to see if you're a real person. Are you really real? Like, is this really happening? You are. Well, they Google at midnight. So many people are frustrated with being attorneys. They Google at midnight, hate job, JD, alternative, help me with life, whatever they Google. I come up because I've been writing for so long, and they check my bar number to see that I'm real, to see that I really am an attorney. That's
the most attorney thing I've ever heard in my life.
Right? Right?
Of course, you got to do your due diligence on if the guy really is a lawyer or not. I can't trust him.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he is a lawyer. So ironically, they'll hire me to help them leave the law, due in part to the fact that they have trusted me because I still pay my license.
And you still have to do the CLE. That was the main thing that caused me to quit. I got to the 3-year period where they wanted all my CLE, and I think I'd done like 5 hours, and I was like, oh, this is going to be really painful. I should just go inactive.
Right. Well, the CLE, what's helped me do is I built my course, and I've seen how the CLE actually is really many of them are really well done online with a lot that you can do here. So the technology has been interesting to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was super off topic. But
no. But there are so many, it's not off topic because there's so many little intricacies of the emotions people have about leaving the law and about finding a new career. On top of all this, there's this gloss of go to law school, become an attorney, retire. And even with things changing nowadays, there's still that kind of traditional story. But underneath all of this, when people are actually feeling how they feel and anxious and desperate and want to do something else, searching me at the state bar site, listening to my YouTube videos or trying to call me, these are what people do. And I'm open to it because they need the help. And I've realized that's kind of like why I'm here. You help people go through this crazy journey of passing the bar, and we
get a lot of those pretty wacky emails too. Particularly, we're recording this a few weeks before the next bar exam, and we're getting a lot of emails from people who are like, "Can you help me?" I'm like, "It's 2 weeks before the exam.
That's
no,
right.
We can't help you. Sorry. Talk to me if you don't pass."
That's right.
But next time, talk to me 2 months before, not 2 weeks.
I get emails. Someone just wrote me an email today. It is about 12 paragraphs long.
Oh yeah, I get those like several times a week. At least.
And I will reply. I read all my emails. I reply to them. But really, I don't know if I can do anything for him because I think he got it all out. Like in any ways, he just needed to vent it to me, right?
No, sometimes we do. We got a really interesting the other day from someone who was considering going to law school but had been in jail.
Right.
And it's like, wow, I don't really know what to say, but like I'll try to help you with your exact questions, and do keep in touch because this is a really interesting storyline.
That's right. I've had that. I've been disbarred. I'm in litigation. Can I leave the law? It's interesting. I want to help everybody. I want to help everyone. So
we all do. That's why we do this, right? But
that's why we do it. That's why we do it. No, I love it.
So when you talk to these people, when you talk to unhappy lawyers of all types, why are they so dissatisfied? I mean, what about the legal profession is it that makes people so desperate in some cases to leave?
Yeah, and so and to close the loop on your previous question about the reaction, weird back then. People still think it's weird, but for instance, I'm speaking at the association, the San Francisco Bar Association, on March 1st.
Nice.
There are little about alternative careers, and there are little baby steps that are happening where not only are many people in America nodding their heads, going, "Yeah, that makes sense," but slowly the establishment is realizing that it's not such a taboo topic, and to kind of help people be happy, help attorneys find these careers. So to your point about why they're so unhappy, obviously it depends on the person, but really the first thing that I see is there's a total disconnect between what the person is good at and what the description, the attorney job description requires.
Well, I guess in that case, my question would be, how did this person go to law school and get through law school to begin with if they're like terrible at everything the law requires?
So I'm a perfect case in point. I went to law school because I was a Jewish kid who didn't like blood. I didn't go to medical school. I spoke well, and I could write pretty well. And probably since I was 12, everyone said you should be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. Sprinkle in a little, LA Law or whatever law was on TV growing up, and you're like, yeah, I could do that.
Like, that looks fun. I'd like to go in front of a jury.
Yeah. All lawyers drive big cars, and, they're never in front of a computer. They're always walking around and making decisions. And we all know that so many attorneys are just behind a Word doc every day. They sit alone in their office. The anxiety of the fiduciary duty, the anxiety of the deadlines. So there's so much that goes into it, and I ask people in the beginning, the world does need attorneys. Are you just in a low spot and need a different firm or a different practice or a break? Or is this to your core not what you should be doing? And usually, and the people I work with, to their core, they are for example, a collaborative team builder who's win-win, who likes to tell stories, and here they are in an adversarial litigation spot where they're kind of using a templatized Word doc brief over and over, and they're bored and they're scared because they're not a bulldog and they don't deal with anxiety well, and so on. So a lot of these reasons, the disconnect with the job description. I just spoke with a woman today who did it, who 12 years has been practicing IP law. Golden handcuffs.
Yeah, that's a big one. When I quit the firm I was working at, a partner came in my office like past midnight, went off one night after I gave a notice, and he's like, "You've got to tell me how you did it. You've got to tell me how to get out of here." I'm like, "It's pretty simple. You quit." Like your partner. Like I don't know what else to say here. Like you just. I think he's still there, which is really sad.
Right.
But yeah, so, it was like, and he told me before, in all seriousness, like, I just don't see how anyone could possibly live in San Francisco on less than $500,000 a year. I'm like, you do realize what you pay your associates and like your secretaries. Like, come on. Like, are you serious? You cannot be serious.
Well, and with the thing about what they need to teach in law school is basic Excel usage and financial forecasting, which isn't that big of a deal because so many people say, well, Casey, I can't leave the law. Like, I can't afford it. Oh, yeah. Let's take an Excel sheet out. Let's see how much you actually make. Oh, and your student debt, you can call them and sort of throttle that up and throttle it down. And this other debt you have, and this and that. Oh, is your spouse working? I have seen it so many times where we went from on day one, there's no way I can leave the law, I can't afford it, to about 3 months later where they find this fantastic job, a non-law job, and they've said, you know what, I've made it work. And you just need to look at the numbers. You can't just keep them in your mind. You can't put it on the back of the pen of an envelope. You actually need to sit and make the numbers work. But when you do that and you find a job that connects with you, your life changes. I mean, the people I've worked with are just testament to it.
Yeah, I think that's the fear of living under the bridge thing that I hear from everyone who works with lawyers who are thinking of leaving. They're like, oh my God, every single person almost comes in and they're like, I really want to get out, but I can't leave because I'm going to end up living under a bridge. And they're like, to get people out of that. I mean, I think your approach sounds really great. Like, okay, let's actually examine this. Because, maybe it's true. Maybe you have nothing and you have huge debts and like you do have to keep doing this for a while, but probably not forever.
So I've identified 4 main fears. There's the fear of I won't be able to make enough money in a non-law job. There's the fear of social disapproval. I'll disappoint everyone in my life if I leave the law. There's the general fear of risk. Leaving the law is too much of a risk for me, which is broader. And then there's this fear of the unknown. And really all of these fears, all of our fears as people, but the fear of the unknown is really the fear of death. And what I mean by that is I'm going to leave the law. I'm going to go into a non-law job. They're not going to like me. They're going to fire me after a day because they realize I'm a fraud. My spouse is going to hate me. My kids, she's going to take my kids. I'm going to lose all my money. Everyone's going to laugh at me. They're going to hire a blimp and make fun of me. I'm going to be kicked to the curb and die in a box on a street. And I'm being a little extreme, right? But yet we're all afraid that if you leave the law and go to a non-law job, you're going to end up under a bridge. You're going to end up in a box dead. And it just doesn't happen. It doesn't.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a weird case because I've done a lot of really random things that were totally different. And I made it work in all of them. I mean, I went to architecture school. I worked as a programmer. I was admitted to med school. Didn't go, thank goodness.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like it's like, do you think there's something unique to whether it's legal training or being a lawyer or the mindset that really causes people to go down this pathway? I feel like people I know in other professions who are interested in shifting, they just don't look at it that way.
Yeah. So we by profession, we attorneys are taught to mitigate risk, as you know. We are taught to worry. We are taught to, we get paid to do that. We get paid to worry. That's one reason why I left my plum in-house job is I was the worrier. I was no, I think that violates our reseller agreement. Oh, that great idea you have? Yeah, I don't know if we can do that. I was that guy.
I know. Even now when I talk to our lawyers for trademark stuff and whatever, they're like, well, I don't know. Right. Like maybe we're not going to get the trademark. And we're just like, just file it and see. Like, come on, stop wasting my time with this. Like, I'm willing to pay the whatever couple $1,000 just to throw it out there. Like, I don't care. And they're just like, well, I mean, we don't know. I'm like, I understand that. I get what you're saying. Just file it anyway.
Right.
See what happens. I don't want to be on this call anymore.
That's right. Well, that may not happen. I get it. Just try it. I'm not going to come and burn down your house because we didn't get approved.
And I will say in every single case, we've gotten the trademark we filed for. But hey, I understand that maybe it wouldn't have happened.
I realize I'm 44 years old now. I realize everything that my wife, people I know have worried about in their lives, really hasn't happened. And so I think that the shift, and when it happens, when it unlocks in attorneys that I work with, it's so beautiful. But it's this shift of, wait a minute, I don't have to worry anymore. I can be creative. I can kind of be optimistic. I don't have to be I can get paid to do something else than worry and mitigate risk. And right. And so that's one of the major blockages that we have. But once we get through it, when we work through them, it just opens up everything.
Yeah, one of the things I found interesting is that I think for whatever reason, a lot of people who go into legal practice go into it thinking that something only has value if it's really, really hard.
Right.
So, this idea of like, oh, I could do something that actually aligns with my skills and interests that I don't find totally boring. Like that's okay. That's not cheating somehow. I think there's this idea like it's cheating if you're not like miserable every day.
I'm so happy you brought that up. I mean, so one of the things I battle with myself and also that we work through is belief systems. You name it. No pain, no gain. Money doesn't grow on trees. Hard work, all of the, save a penny for a rainy day type stuff. And so what that means is, I think I butchered that last one, but what that means is that we work really hard and we save money for rain. We don't spend it and we just focus. And now we're 65
You never know what's going to happen.
You never know what's going to happen, right? And so it's kind of not an abundant viewpoint of life. It's a lack viewpoint and worrying about who knows what can happen. And so not the take that we need to just, sit kumbaya and get rid of everything, but the focus is when you look at the wealthy people of the world, when you look at who's really rich, when you look at who's really happy, sure, we all grope and say, well, look at those rich kids on Instagram and they don't have to work for a dime. But there are so many people who have systems in place. They have systems working for them. Now, a system could be, a senior partner who has 20 people working for him so he can go on vacation. But really it's nowadays with technology and the automation that we have and artificial intelligence and everything that we have and everything that all these non-law alternative companies are doing, whether you're entrepreneurial or whether you want to be part of a big organization, it doesn't need to be that hard to be fulfilled and to make money.
Mm-hmm. I guess on that point, are there certain types of non-law jobs or positions that you think people trained as attorneys are particularly well suited for?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so there are a ton of jobs out there in the world beyond transaction litigation, as you know.
Right.
And so,
oh yeah, there's family law too. No, I'm kidding.
yeah, right. And family law. So that is one of the big fears. Like, I just know transaction or litigation work. What else is out there? It's like peeking behind the curtain. There are a lot of jobs, and the people that go through Leave Law Behind have filled kind of across all industries and all types of roles. But when you really think about it, there are we were talking earlier, about 5 to 15 job areas that are so ripe for attorneys. When you think about everything attorneys are good at, we write well, we storytell, we speak convincingly, we can talk in front of executives and we can present well in front of VIPs, we can be the adult in the room, put out fires, upsell, we can work very hard. Working past 6 p.m. is not a big deal for us.
Right.
We're great editors, we're attention to detail, we make sure the trains run on time, we meet deadlines, on and on and on. There's a lot of jobs out there in the non-law world that call for it. Project managers, product managers, analyst roles. You've got account managers. You got sales and business development. You've got operations, HR, administration. And then there's like specific ones. I mean, if you're a tax attorney who wants to get out, there are a ton of jobs I know in the high tech world for like SEC and tax analysts where you use your tax subject matter every day, but it's really about kind of plus and coupled with strategy. Okay, well, how does Google, for example, make sure it structures its initiatives in a tax compliant way where it can have enough money for that next moonshot they want to do? Mm-hmm. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Someone had to come up with the alphabet idea.
Yeah, right? Exactly, right? So there are so many jobs out there, and, there's a logistics procurement job that a client of mine moved into. She was a federal prosecutor, and she moved into kind of logistics procurement. You say, how would that happen? Well, she ran 10-month-long nationwide trials. I mean, think about all the different balls that were in the air that she needed to do, where kind of a logistics type job is kind of a perfect fit. So,
no, I mean, certainly if you're a prosecutor in a jury trial, I mean, I remember the one jury trial I did when I was an associate, getting yelled at because we didn't have the right number of copies made for to pass out to people. It's that level of detail that somebody has to be in charge of. Like, I didn't know, no one told me, but they should have.
Right. That's exactly right. So imagine for your listeners out there, if they don't know exactly, but if you imagine that there's whether you're working for a consulting firm or whether you're internally, there's these things that need to get done. There's software that helps you, and you just need to make sure things are running on time and be the adult in the room, but it's more creative. And if you believe in what you're creating in that project, oh man, sky's the limit.
Well, so I'm listening to this, I'm like, oh, all those jobs sound really boring to me, I've got to be honest. So I think personally, I am just not a person who needs to work for someone else. I'm a terrible employee. I mean, how many of the people do you talk to? I mean, are any of them interested in kind of doing their own thing, starting their own business? Is that something you hear a lot? And is that feasible? How can people do that?
Yeah, many are. Those jobs, so there's one client who does sales operation, and he loves it because he's able to kind of build his own process around optimizing the sales team of a certain company. So for him, he loves it. He's not fully entrepreneurial. He likes going in the office. He likes building around the team, extremely smart, and they've given him a ton of opportunity in that sense. So for a person like that, the jobs that I listed are just right there. They're either stepping stone up the career. You can make a lot more money with equity options. There's all of that. For someone like you, for someone like me, who is entrepreneurial, who wants to work from anywhere, who may not want to work for someone else, there are, I would say, a smaller subset of the people I work with who feel that way. Mm-hmm. And many of them just want out. They were, like, I just don't want to be in a big firm anymore, a big company. I want to
go do cupcakes.
Yeah, I'm going to
Cupcake Bakery.
Exactly.
What is that you're on the Cupcake Bakery? There's like Pilates, yoga studio.
You see that all the time.
Career coaching. It's like, okay, you've never gotten another job. What a life coach, all these things.
That's right. And a lot of times they're great stories and make good articles, but they have another working spouse that can kind of fund it.
Yeah, I know several people were like, oh, ethical clothing line or whatever. It's like, okay, that's probably not paying your bills in New York City, but
no, and when you're right, and when you're the sole provider and you're the one that has to leave, starting a cupcake shop is is likely not the best thing to do right off the bat. So, but when it comes to entrepreneurial, and many of them who've run their own business, they've run their own practice, they're just not making as much money. Yeah, maybe they pull in $500,000, but the money that actually comes to them at the end of the day just isn't that much.
Right.
They know how to run a business. They have only worked for themselves the past 10, 15 years. Those are the people where I'll help them it's the same process. What are you really good at? But instead of filling the gap for a company, it's more of how do I fill the gap for the market?
Right. How do I find someone who will pay me for what I'm good at that I want to do?
Exactly. But it's a shift because you need to look at the technologies out there. You need to it's not even about taking on the risk of an entrepreneur that we hear in the movies or that you read in the newspapers or Entrepreneur Magazine. It's really about, do I have this talk about belief systems? Like, do I really believe that I can add value to people? I mean, that's something that I've wrestled with as a lawyer leaving law and also as someone starting their own business. Really, Casey, as I speak to myself, is this really helpful? Do people really need this? Is my course have I built it well? Does it really help? And it's only through actually just getting out there and shipping version 1 and having people respond. I've said to them in the beginning, so this thing I created, this course, you like it? And they've said, Casey, it's great. Yeah, add this here. I'd like a little more of that, but are you kidding? I love this. And okay, yeah, thanks. I knew that. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I think that has been one of the big shifts for me in moving from a legal job to doing something more entrepreneurial and actually selling something, is that adjustment of you have to put something out there before it's totally perfect or before maybe it's at the level you think might be completely perfect, which is probably some unattainable level that just really is there to prevent you from actually putting anything out there that might get negative feedback. So
that's right.
I think people like Seth Godin are really great on this point, where it's just you've just got to ship it. If you have something, you've got to put it out there, because more and more the thing I found is that you just can't predict what people are going to react to.
And imagine if if they held out until iPhone 10.
Oh yeah, you think back to iPhone 1 and you're like, that was terrible. And we were all so happy to pay them so much money for it.
That's right. And it was horrible.
Yeah, awful. Totally awful.
Or you could say it wasn't horrible, but wow, they've improved it a lot, right?
Yeah, but if you look back, you're like, wow, did it really not do any of those things? The stuff that we're just so used to, that didn't exist.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so I think what advice do you have for people who are lawyers or maybe interested in becoming more entrepreneurial? I guess I would say you've got to, I think it's so much about community. You've got to go meet the people or read the people or, connect with the people in some way who are actually doing entrepreneurial things, because the mindset is 180 degrees from the average lawyer.
Yeah. So my advice for attorneys who use the E word there, I want to be entrepreneurial, I have it in me, or so on. One is, forget perfectionism. You have to get rid of it. You can't listen to it anymore. And if you keep saying, well, I'm a perfectionist and I'm only going to do this, I'm only going to do X when Y happens, it'll never happen. So you have to get over that. You have to, like Seth Godin says, ship it, get out there and just bear any criticism that comes with it. And like everything you've worried about, it really won't happen. The criticism you're worried about, likely it'll be constructive. They're not going to.
Oh, no, not always. But sometimes people write mean emails about you have a misplaced comma in this blog post. And it's like, okay, great. Thanks for your input. Guess what? I'm not personally editing those at this point because I have other things to do.
Yeah, that's okay. And I've gotten that too. So there's the perfectionism. And then the other part is, like you said, get out there. I call it volunteering. If you ever want to do something and you're wondering how it is to test it, just volunteer. Mm-hmm. People have said many attorneys are teachers, and they say, well, Casey, I don't want to be a high school teacher. And I say, the teaching is everywhere in the world. We're teaching on this podcast.
Right.
You teach in companies. So teaching is needed everywhere. And if you really think you want to be a quote unquote teacher, volunteer. Go to a Boys and Girls Club and tutor, or go to your local chamber of commerce or some tech incubator and teach people and see if you really like it. Because you may think you want to be a teacher, but really you're impatient and you can't deal with people.
Right.
If being an entrepreneur is what you want to do, then go volunteer or go, like you said, do informational interviews with other entrepreneurs. Like, what is your day like? Tell me what it's like. Can I buy you a cup of coffee in just 15 minutes? Like, I think I'm good at A, B, and C. Do you think this is something that's a fit here?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was still working at the law firm and was thinking like, okay, I really don't think I want to be doing this anymore, but I don't know what else to do.
Right.
And I went to this thing that I just happened to see on Facebook or whatever called Startup Weekend, where the idea was, it was one of the very first ones that they did. So, the founder was there and like, we're still friends. And, but it was just like build a company in a weekend thing. And, this was, okay, I'd been a programmer, so I could kind of be like, well, I'm a lawyer and a programmer and a designer. So people kind of wanted to talk to me. But it was one of those things I was like, well, is this crazy? Like, do I have time for this? Should I be doing this? I remember leaving my office at 5 p.m. on Friday or whenever it started. Everyone was like, why are you leaving so early? Yeah. And it was like, oh, because I'm getting ready to do this crazy thing for the whole weekend that I don't know anything about, but somehow it seems like maybe something will come out of it. And, I met some amazing people. And one of them actually years later kind of counseled us when we were trying to figure out like what was our business actually doing and like, was it going to work and should we keep doing it? I had a couple of hour conversation with him and he was like completely changed everything.
Yeah.
You've got to put yourself in a position to kind of meet those people.
What I've seen in my life is, the emperor has no clothes, that fable. I really I'm not a conspiracy theorist and I'm not an anarchist, but I have looked at these belief systems that we have in our life and how where we get uncomfortable. Why are you doing a hackathon on a weekend? People don't do that.
Right,
why would you meet those people, right?
Who are these people? They sound dangerous.
That's right. And what do you mean do an informational interview with a stranger I don't know? Why would that person meet with me? I'm not saying to, give the middle finger to the world or do an Evel Knievel jump on a motorcycle across a canyon, but I am saying to push it a little, to go do that startup weekend thing, to go do informational interviews, and to realize that if just because everyone else, the attorneys in the firm or everyone you see on the sidewalk downtown as you go to lunch, just because everyone else is doing a certain thing doesn't necessarily mean it's a fit for you. Right. And if you've got that little inkling inside of you, your ego is going to say, no, stay safe, stay smart. Our ego is that part of the brain that helped us stay safe when we were cave women and cavemen and that's where the anxiety comes from. But nowadays, there's no saber-tooth tiger hunting us on the streets. We're worried about our boss. We're worried about a deadline. We're worried about malpractice. But we really don't have that much to worry about anymore. And so we can kind of now, I am going to say this, connect with our soul a bit, listen to our purpose. And the irony of this all is that when you listen to your soul, when you really connect with your purpose on life, how to help people, you can really make so much more money. You can really work a lot less. You can really have a much easier life that kind of flows when you get in the zone. I'll end it here by saying, we talk about star athletes or star celebrities or singers who get in the zone and it just connects for them and they weren't even thinking. But when you think about, professionals in suits and collared shirts getting in the zone, like that's kind of meditation mumbo jumbo. But we can really get in the zone in the same way that top sports stars can. But it's about us really finding this new position, this new role where our skills are really used in that way.
Yeah, and Lee and I were talking about this recently. There can be, I think, some groupthink in a lot of legal positions where whether it's at a firm or an organization or whatever it is, where everyone's like, well, of course this is normal. Right. Like, this is totally normal. It's totally normal that, you would never see your spouse or kids and just work constantly and fly all over the country. Like, why are they complaining about this?
That's right. Grin and bear it. You have an attorney job. You make a lot of money. You have a high stature.
But at some point, if you're gonna get out of that, you do have to take a step back and go, well, you know what? A, I don't really think this is actually that normal on average. I don't think most jobs are really like this. And B, even if it is, as my therapist used to say, I don't really know what normal is. Like, can we use a different word here?
That's right.
But also, it's like, even if it is like, 90% of the people in the world are doing this, I don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Exactly. And that's trusting your soul. That is trusting your inner voice, that inner voice that we know. Even if we push it down, even if we have that ego of, no, don't listen to it. Don't listen to that. I need to focus on what the society is telling me, what my boss is telling me to do. When you do listen to that voice of, this doesn't feel right to me, that's the soul. That's the purpose. And once you start listening more and more to that, life creates a new path for you. but it's something that really aligns with you, it connects with you.
Well, and I found too, if you don't listen to that, because trust me, for many, many, many years, I was well trained not to listen to anything other than just like, got to get it, got to get the A, got to get the A, got to get the job done. Right. And I think I was like 25 maybe when I had shingles. I was clinically depressed. I was like sick all the time. At some point, all this stuff comes out. I mean, there's a reason that the incidents of drinking problems and that kind of thing are so high in the legal profession.
So high.
If you talk to a psychologist or psychiatrist, they'll say, well, look, this is basically the id coming out.
30% of the people in the past month who signed up with Leave Law Behind have all had severe health issues.
Yeah, I mean, it comes out in other ways if you don't deal with it. So point being, deal with it.
Right. Deal with it.
All right, let me ask you one last question.
Yes.
We're running out of time. So say I'm an unhappy attorney or I'm an unhappy
Yes.
law student. I'm listening to this. I want to think about transitioning to some other type of job. What do you suggest I do to get started?
So, of course, plug leavelawbehind.com. Come read it, check it out,
Great
download
site.
information.
Your email newsletter is really good too.
Thank you. Yeah, I blog twice a week. Really inspiring stuff that's top of mind. It's about me. It's about case studies. It's all types of stuff. But come to leavelawbehind.com. We'd love to have you join the community. But really, what I would say is don't focus on the J word, job. Look inward. Focus on yourself first. Now, this is very hard for attorneys to get their mind around. That. Well, hold on, Casey. No. I want to know what job it is. I want to know where I'm going. I'm not transitioning until I know where it is.
Right.
And I'm trying to convince people to let go of control a bit and let's not focus on the job right away. There's an E.L. Doctorow quote, who was a novelist. He said, life is like driving your car at night with the headlights on. You can only see so far as the headlights, but you're going to get home, right? And so what I'm saying is let's have a little trust in our headlights. We can only see a week ahead, a month ahead, whatever it is. But what we have done is we've gone to law school, we've gone to the firm, we've done whatever we've done, and what has driven that is not our self, but it's security, stability, belief systems, our parents, whatever it is. And I'm saying, let's flip this. And what I really want you to drive your job search, what I want it to really inform your job search is what you're really good at, your skills, what I call your unique genius, your skills, your strengths, your interpersonality or your attention to detail, or even introverts. Introverts have so much strengths that they're in the wrong job if they're a litigator and they've got to go argue, right? So flip it on its head. Even though we're finding a job, we don't focus on the job first. We look inward. We go to the source, what you're really good at. It's like a personality test, but we do it just in a real organic way, very actionable, does not take long. You get this, what I call unique genius and narrative. It's a story about yourself. It's like a scouting report if you were an athlete. Really focuses on what you're good at. You feel good about that. Once that dust settles, then we find which jobs call for your skills and strengths. Which job description out there matches what value you bring. That's the formula.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we are now out of time, but tell us a little bit more about if people want to learn more about Leave Law Behind or they want to work with you. How can they do that?
Yes. Thank you. Come to leavelawbehind.com. Again, leavelawbehind.com. You can email me anytime at Casey, CASEY, at leavelawbehind.com. Last year, I took 6 months and took all of my coaching, all my knowledge, and put it into an online course that we're continuing updating every day, more information, live trainings. So that's all I'll do. I won't plug anymore. But if you are really serious about exploring how to change your life, how to really transition from law into an alternative career, that's what I've been working on for the past 8 years. We've got a great community, great course, hand-holding all the way. We'd love to have you join the community. There's a ton of free resources for you to check out as well, and then have a course if you're interested.
Awesome. Well, Casey, thank you so much for taking your time. This has been really interesting. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be part of it, and just thank you again for letting me have some time with your audience.
Oh, my pleasure. If you enjoyed this episode of the Law School Toolbox podcast, please take a second to leave a review or rating on your favorite listening app because we would really appreciate it. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Typically, our new episodes are out on Monday. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Lee at lee@lawschooltoolbox.com or Alison at lawschooltoolbox.com, or you can always contact us via our website contact form at lawschooltoolbox.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk soon.